There is a menu on the Pfaff Creative Icon too that sometimes trips some people up. Let me talk about the quilt menu, the number 2 menu. And the first one is the Handlook Quilt Stitches. Now, if you go to menu 2.2, we get into other fun decorative stitches and also crazy patch stitches. So it's a fun, really bold group of stitches that stitch out really unique and really give you a nice sense of what the decorative stitches can be. Really a wow factor. But when people are doing their stitch book, this is often the menu they start on. So they kind of skip the utility stitches, which I totally get. They go to the quilt stitches, they go to menu 1 and pick number 1. That is a simple straight stitch. Now it's a little bit more than a straight stitch. It's got some locking stitches in it. As you touch the question mark, you can see quilting straight stitch with tie off on the spot. Great for quilters. Okay, that's great. Then you get to stitch number 2. Now this is not a normal straight stitch. This is what people call a hand look quilt stitch. So if you touch the question mark and touch number 2, we get a direction to put monofilament thread in the needle, and the needle thread tension is increased to pull the bobbin thread up. Okay, so this does kind of look cool. It does look like you've been sewing by hand, because if you have clear thread in the top, it disappears and whatever's in your bobbin actually comes up. So it looks like a hand stitch. So the only thing is sometimes people don't realize that these stitches are all in that hand look quilt stitch concept. And the way we would know is look at the tension. For these first couple stitches here, they have an increased tension of 7. And normally I tighten that up even higher to get the look that I'm after. So when people are stitching their stitch book, they don't even realize that these are supposed to be a unique stitch done in a unique way. What they write to me and ask is, why is my bobbin thread coming up to the top when I'm sewing these stitches? Because they're doing their stitch book and they're sewing them out. Well, look at the tension. Obviously, you're going to get a weird looking tension when it is naturally much higher. So for those of you doing a stitch book not in the normal hand quilting world, and you want to stitch these as normal stitches, you do need to reduce the stitch tension back down to like a 4.8 to probably get the balance that you're looking, or even further down to 3 or 2.5. Okay, so let's actually talk about the stitch 2 as it's designed. It does come up at a higher tension. I am going to stitch it 2 ways. I'm going to stitch it once at a normal way, and then I'm going to increase it to a higher tension to show you the difference. I also have turquoise thread in my needle instead of clear thread, so you can see where it will be. And then I have a really bright thread in the bobbin so we can actually see it. So let's go ahead and stitch these out. I'm going to stitch it twice and then we'll talk about the results. So if you notice how it's stitching, it's doing little tiny stitches and then a bigger stitch, a little tiny stitch and then a bigger stitch, little tiny, and kind of looks weird, right? Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. And we'll see kind of a turquoise pink little change of color. And then I'm going to do that tension increase I talked about. Let me go up to 7.6. And we'll just give it a little bit of oomph. Because these 2 threads are a different weight, I want to show you that you can really get an extra bold look depending if you increase that tension a little bit. Okay, same stitch, super cute. And wowzers. As it does those little tiny stitches, that's where the bobbin thread starts to be showing on top. Remember, the blue thread's in the needle, so if that was clear, you would have a separation between those bright stitches. As I increased it, I kind of get more of the pink thread showing, and that actually looks much better based on these thread thicknesses. You can do this through normal quilt sandwiches like with batting in between. It'll look like you did it by hand. Now, speaking of Well, the back's going to prove you otherwise, that you didn't do it by hand, but that's okay. You will see the bobbin thread as a constant straight stitch in the back. But if you're looking for a unique way to give your quilt a quilted look, that's feed dogs up, dual feed engaged, you can select stitch number 2.2 in the quilt menu. So give that a try, and just know that if you want to stitch these stitches at a normal looking stitch, you will need to reduce the tension, and they'll be just as normal decorative stitches instead of the unique Handlook quilt stitches that you're seeing here. So I hope you'll give these a try, maybe add it to your next quilt, and before you know it, people will be oohing and awing over stitches that took you minutes to stitch instead of hours by hand.